as you can see here, Australia needs 1.2 million tech workers by 2030. This is not me saying it. This is literally some information that is research. You can find it on Tech Council Australia. 1.2 million tech workers. If you go on Seek, say you want to ignore the research, right? Go on Seek and type business analyst, for example. Type project managers. You see thousands of jobs every single day. The other day, RMIT Australia, they did a research. Women, I'm super pumped. I'm excited, because this is what like fires me up. Women, we need 100,000 women before 2030 to be included in tech. I'm repeating it. 100,000 women needs to be like it's a critical issue, crisis for businesses now that needs women to be. And in the world here, because sometimes we've seen a couple of people come here and gotten a job and they go into the shell, like they just hide, like they've done something. They don't want to come out. They say, oh, I'm a private person, I'm this, I don't want to be online, which is fine. We respect everybody's privacy. But everybody, like one person's story can inspire somebody else. We've seen that lots of time. Like, oh, I heard Jim say this. And that's why we're always grateful for people that are willing to inspire others. I heard Jim say this, and that was what made me like stay true to this process. You inspire people with your story, with your journey, and it's so powerful. But to the point, 100,000 women are needed in Australia before 2030. And African, we are congregated in a sector. The difficulty in that sector for me, and I always say, is that we're in this sector where it is, if you look at the origin, it's funded by the government. Now, there are key industry where government gets money by generating income. Taxes, mining, like natural resource, iron ore, all of those things, export to Australia. If you're in the news and you do it, so you see, gambling is big. It's surprisingly shocking that gambling is a big industry. The Australian like gambling as well. A couple of industry, even tech is not as developed as it should right now. So why am I saying all of this? The government is always deficit. Anything the government is funding is vulnerable because they're in debt. Like they borrow money, they print money, all of those things have repercussions. If you look at the US and everything, they are cutting government funding and all of that in different industries. Any industry that relies on government funding is vulnerable. Now let's look away from that. Like say nothing will ever happen. If government one policy wipes out the funding for that industry, what happens? It's already saturated. Somebody coming from India or whatever, or Africa, can from day one start to work in this industry, meaning the barrier to entry is very low. So you get to a point where it's so saturated, you'll be competing for shift. Some of you already, I've spoken to some people that are like, I don't get stable shift. I don't know when I work. The agency call me when they have work, and if I say no, that means they don't look at my place for like 4 or 5 days. So it's not stable, right? So, but even if your own is stable, you're juggling 4 5. Look at it from a health perspective, sustainability perspective, especially for people like you that you've got talent. Except that was your career, like in Nigeria or wherever you've immigrated from. If you were like, oh, certified carer, personal care, and that's your career path, no problem. But because you've come to this world, it is valid that that's not it for you, and you've got to take action. It's not a negotiable. This is also part of your why. This industry, there's so much opportunity. Like I said, in tech, for example, there will always be opportunity. You need to go into a growing opportunity. Even if you're average in that growing opportunity, the tide will take you forward, right? The tide will move you forward because it's upward trajectory. But if you're going in an industry that is going down, like saturated, everybody can go with a bit of 1 week course, you get into it, and then everybody starts fighting for the scarce resources. It's not good for you for the long term. And even at that, you may say, I'm making money now, but in the next couple of years, when you are not able to use your muscle over time to make the money, what happens? Because you're literally using your time. You have to go for that shit. That's your muscle and time to do work. You need to be developing your asset, your brain, your mind. The biggest level of value happens in imagination. Why is the biggest or the richest person? Why they don't have more 24 hours than us? Why do you think they are commanding so much value that they are paid so much? It's because they've developed their mind so much. They have imagination that immediately can start a company, start a movement for so many people, and they provide so many points of value. Look at Elon Musk. Look at so many people that are rich, that are living a good life. They provide value for a lot of. If you're in a sector where you're just paying for like small number, if you want to be rich, you've got to create value for a lot of people, or the magnitude have to be wide. Like create high. Let's say if you want to be a millionaire, for example, you've got to create millions for other people to get to that point. Literally, that's the way the world works. The world you world value when you are able to use your mind. It's not about using your power. Look at the hardest worker, cleaners, mechanics, all of those is minimum wage. You're using your muscle.